Country is in a very dark place right now. But even after everything the deep state has done to me, I will never give up on America. Mark my words, in 2024, we will win back the White House. We will make America great again. I have no doubt about it. They come at me from left. They come at me from right. The rhinos, the communists, the Marxists, the fascists. We will not only survive, we will be stronger than ever before.
Hey there, guys. So yet again, we got to talk about Donald Trump. And yet again, he's been indicted for a third time now, and specifically in relation to the events of January 6th. Now, this is about the federal government taking issue with the former president basically exercising his freedom of speech and challenging the election outcome, which, interestingly, the indictment actually itself admits that he had the right to do what he did regarding the election challenge. But here's the thing. They're going after him for speaking freely and for challenging the results. And we did see this coming. Let me know in the comments if you didn't see it coming, but we saw it coming. And of course, there's a lot of politics at play here, and it feels like the left, they're just determined to keep Trump from making his comeback, if there is a comeback coming. And what's my take on this? Well, I honestly think it's going to end up giving Trump a bump in the polls, obviously, which is going to make some liberal brains explode, which is always fun to watch. But, you know, especially in the Republican primary and possibly even the general election, I don't know. But it seems like the more they go after him, the more support he gains. So if I were Trump, I'd probably see this as a good thing. You know, it's only going to make him stronger, which is crazy when you think about the way things are. Now, if you're curious about the details, there's a video of Jack Smith, the special counsel in charge of this investigation, explaining the charges and announcing them against Trump, and definitely worth checking out. Take a look at this. He seems more like a politician than he does a prosecutor. But take a look at this, guys. Before we do that, thanks to everyone who's been subscribing and leaving such great comments. We really, really appreciate the support, guys. Thanks for helping us grow. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, most importantly, share the channel. Every time you do, a leftist will lose their wings.
Good evening. Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding. The indictment was issued by a grand jury of citizens here in the District of Columbia, and it sets forth the crimes charged in detail. I encourage everyone to read it in full. The attack on our nation's capital on January 6th, 2021, was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election. Since the attack on our Capitol, the Department of Justice has remained committed to ensuring accountability for those criminally responsible for what happened that day. This case is brought consistent with that commitment, and our investigation of other individuals continues. In this case, my office will seek a speedy trial so that our evidence can be tested in court and judged by a jury of citizens. In the meantime, I must emphasize that the indictment is only an allegation and that the defendant must be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. I would like to thank the members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation who are working on this investigation with my office, as well as the many career prosecutors and law enforcement agents from around the country who have worked on previous January 6th investigations. These women and men are public servants of the very highest order, and it is a privilege to work alongside them. Thank you.
So Trump been indicted once more, this time on 4 very, very serious charges. You heard Jack Smith read them off, and obviously that's quite a list, man. But let's try to understand what's going on here. I've read through the indictment, and I'll admit I'm no lawyer, but it seems to me that a big part of proving Trump's guilt on a lot of these charges hinges on whether he knowingly made false claims. So throughout the document, you know, it stated repeatedly that Trump knew his claims were false, but proving that, how can they prove that? How can they prove what the guy did or did not believe? And this is news to me that our freedom of speech depends on whether or not we believe what we're saying. That doesn't make any sense. It sounds like a lot of constitutional questions moving forward, especially if there's a conviction. But here's the thing. Only once in the indictment did I see where they accused Trump of privately admitting that any claim, in this case, it was the claim of the Kraken lawsuit filed by Sidney Powell, was unfounded. They claimed that Trump privately called the allegations crazy, yet he tweeted about them before the lawsuit and, was even filed. So anyway, that's the only time that they really point to him acknowledging that something might not be right. Now, the big question is this. Can they actually prove that Trump didn't believe what he was saying? He's actually still saying most of this stuff. So how are they going to prove it? It's going to be pretty tough for them to demonstrate that Trump didn't actually believe his own statements. It's not a crime to believe something, even if others tell you it's not true. Of course, Russia collusion is a perfect example of this. And let's not forget, man, challenging the outcome of an election, that's not a crime either. If it were, just about every Democrat we know would be dealing with their own indictment. It's been a common practice to challenge elections forever, usually with unsubstantiated claims like Russian involvement, things like that. But up until 2020, this was just considered part of the deal. Now, I'm not trying to make a legal argument here. I'm no expert, but it seems to me that trying to prove Trump knowingly made false statements, that's a stretch, man. That's a real stretch. In the January 6th charges, we all know, everyone's seen it. Everyone who's willing to look saw Trump tell protesters to act peacefully. So accusing him of attempting to overthrow the government, that's a reach too. Only the most insane leftist really, really believes that, or the very, very propagandized. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that the whole situation could very well backfire on those who are doing it. The people going after Trump, it could backfire on them. It looks more like political maneuvering than anything else, even from the prosecutor. And it seems incredibly convenient that these indictments, they keep popping up whenever there's a spotlight on Joe and potential scandals involving him. It's almost, they're trying to distract the public. There's no doubt about it that they're trying to distract the public from Joe Biden stuff, but anyway, that's just my perspective, guys. Take that with a grain of salt for sure, but it sure does seem like there's something more going on here. Have a look for yourself and let me know what you think in the comments.
The timing of this indictment was coordinated to take the heat off Biden. This is the third time this has happened. You ready? On March 17th, Hunter admitted the laptop was his. And on the very next day, Trump received word Alvin Bragg was indicting him in New York. On June 8th, an FBI document broke that Ukraine paid Biden a $5 million bribe. And the next day, on June 9th, Biden's DOJ indicts Trump on the Mar-a-Lago documents. Yesterday, on July 31st, a Biden insider told Congress that Biden spoke with Hunter Biden's business partners dozens of times, and Hunter was paid handsomely to get his dad to fire the prosecutor in Ukraine. And then today, August 1st, Biden's Justice Department indicts Trump on January 6 charges.
So here's something that might not just be a coincidence. So U.S. District Judge Tanya S. Chutkan, she's been assigned to the Trump case. Now, she's the Obama appointee, and interestingly, she's the only federal judge in Washington, D.C. who has given out longer sentence to January 6 defendants than the government's even been asking for. And it seems like, obviously they're really going after Trump. I'm sure the fantasy is to put him behind bars. That's what a lot of them truly want. But here's what the interesting thing is. All these indictments against Trump, they're not doing anything what the government intended. All they're doing is waking up basically generally apolitical people and fueling this belief that the deep state, the Department of Justice, and even the Biden administration, they're out to get Donald Trump. People really are starting to see this as politically motivated. It only took 60 felonies to do it, but now it's happening. And the funny thing, it's making Trump stronger among Republicans, which has the media, especially CNN, completely freaking losing their minds. It's definitely an interesting situation. And it makes you wonder, what the true motivations are behind these legal actions. You have to wonder. Is it justice? Is it politics? Is it something else? Let me know in the comments what you think. Hard to say for sure, but it's certainly something to take a look at and something to think about.
Let's look specifically about the former president and the support before we get to the focus group that you did. The support that he has nationally has grown since February. 12 points since February. And DeSantis, who was just right behind him at a time, is now even further behind him. Who are these people who aren't part, maybe necessarily, of like that Trump core, what we call the Fifth Avenue Republicans, who, you know, he famously says, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and those people will support me. But the people on top of that who are looking at everything that's going on, that happened on January 6th, and they're saying, okay, I'll throw my support behind Donald Trump.
The less educated you are, the more likely you are to support Donald Trump. Lower income, people have been unemployed at some point in the last 5 years. It's a socioeconomic level that was once a Democratic voter.
More evidence tonight that the Republican Party truly is Donald Trump's party. New Siena College New York Times polling that shows Republican voters favoring him by 54 to 17% over his nearest rival, Ron DeSantis.
There were 26 different demographic groups that got broken down. You know how many of those groups Donald Trump didn't lead amongst?
No.
0. He led in every single...
These were just Republican voters.
Just Republican voters, right?
And nationwide.
Correct. Nationwide, Republican voters. He led in all 26 groups, including his weakest groups. Those with a college degree still favor Trump by double digits. Those making more than $100,000 per year favored Trump by double digits.
Is there any evidence that, you know, if the field were to winnow, well, what would the data show?
If, in fact, you eliminate all the other candidates besides Ron DeSantis, and it's just a matchup between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, guess who wins?
Let me guess.
Donald Trump. Donald Trump wins by over 30 points in that matchup.
CNN's reaction? Well, they're shocked, man. They're literally disappointed that the indictments aren't causing any real trouble for Trump, at least in the Republican primary. Now, Frank Luntz, he chalks it up to voters being dumb and poor. But that's a pretty simplistic view, in my mind at least. Let's be clear. Having a college degree doesn't make you smart, and not having one doesn't make you uneducated or unintelligent either. Plenty of smart, capable folks out there that don't have a college degree, but maybe, just maybe, you know, GOP voters, they prefer Trump for other reasons. Perhaps they see what's happening as a political persecution, or maybe they liked what Trump did while he was in office and they want more of it. They remember the economy, what the economy was like. They felt respected on the world stage, you know, and they hope for no new wars, people to stop dying in Ukraine, stronger border control. The whole January 6th scare, obviously it's overblown, man. If Trump wins again, there's no reason to think that there's going to be another January 6th. The courts and the government, they managed to prevent it from becoming a larger issue, and he can only serve 4 more years anyway. But anyway, so what are voters looking for? They want a great economy. They want respect. They want control over crime. They want border security. These are all things that they associate with Donald Trump, and they disassociate with Joe Biden. And it's not just the primary where he's gaining traction. Even in the general election, Trump is virtually tied with Biden, which has the liberal media and liberals in general absolutely losing their freaking mind. Despite their best efforts, the Democrats haven't been able to arrest their way to political success. And guess what? The voters, not the pundits, they have the final say. Take a look at this. But before you guys do, thanks again so much to everyone who's been subscribing. We really, really appreciate the support.
NBC News Chief White House correspondent Kristen Welker, who's been patiently waiting for us. I appreciate it. Kristen, I want to ask about politics. There's a New York Times Siena College poll out today. It asked registered voters nationwide last week if the 2024 presidential election were right now, who would get your vote? And it's a dead heat between President Biden and former President Trump, 43% each. But when you look at the voters who say, I don't like either of them right now, Biden gets a slight edge. I'm wondering if that means that the impact of all these indictments might be greater politically than what we have thought, Kristen?
Well, it could be. I think that's the key, Kate. It's possible that these indictments are starting to have an impact on the general election, and that could have an impact on independent voters, for example, who could be crucial in this next general election. Think about what happened in 2020. President Biden beat former President Trump among independents 42 to 37%. So think about that. But think about the primary. We have only seen former President Trump get stronger, become more emboldened with each new indictment. In fact, we've seen a real spike in terms of his fundraising every time one of these new indictments comes down.
So it seems Trump is getting stronger, literally with every indictment they throw his way. He's like the level boss on a freaking old school video game. And it's not affecting him much in the primaries. And when you look at the general election polling, he's right there. He's tied with Biden. And it's almost surprising how these indictments haven't really shaken his standing. It's pretty awesome when you think about it, the dilemma that the media is in. While they really probably want Trump to win the primary, they do not want him to win the general election, of course. And it says something about the mood of the country and the opinions on Biden himself that Trump is still standing strong, even with all this. I mean, if Biden is literally tied with Trump after all that's happened, 3 times indicted, alleged insurrectionist that people have been told is every ist and ism for the past 8 years, it's got to make you wonder what they really think of Joe Biden. And honestly, Trump is going to get even stronger as we approach the general election. Things might change, of course, if he's found guilty on some charges, but considering the timing, most people see this as politically motivated. That's just a fact. Whether it is or is not, only really God knows. Only the government truly knows. But the people, they have an opinion on it. With trials they're set to occur before the election, Republicans, they're under some pressure to counteract this stuff. And one way it might actually be to impeach Joe Biden, which may take some focus off of Trump. Again, but that's not a thing that should be wielded as a political weapon. That man needs to be impeached because he's crooked, allegedly, in my opinion. But the election is coming up. It's going to be the craziest one yet. And guys, I hope this is the craziest election ever, because we've got to find a way to tone things down and get back to normal. Well, whatever normal is, a good normal. Not the status quo normal, but at least a civil normal. But hey, guys, no matter how things turn out, Trump grows stronger with each indictment. Let me know in the comments if you agree with that. It's going to be interesting to see how the polls react. I imagine another liberal media meltdown is coming our way if the numbers go up yet again for Trump, despite the January 6 indictments. That's my take, guys. Let me know your take in the comments. And if you haven't already, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the Common Sense Garage. We'll see you in the next one.